welcome to the Gambia Business Podcast. I'm your host, Siri. I am very happy to say that this is my first episode that I'm doing in the Gambia, and being something so special. And with the special episode comes a special guest. I have my man over here, Mr. Momar Taal of Tropingo Foods. Mr. Taal, welcome to the Gambia Business Podcast.
So I'm Momar Taal. I'm the managing director and founder of Tropingo Foods. Tropingo Foods is a food processing and export company. We process peanuts and mangoes from Gambia for export. Yes, so that's basically it.
Okay, doing a little research about yourself and your company, I've seen that you've talked about, us thinking big, and ways of disrupting the primitive farming system that we have in the Gambia, since you're in the agriculture business. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I wouldn't call it primitive. I'll just call it traditional. Primitive has a negative connotation.
Right.
In Gambia, agriculture has been smallholder subsistence-based since after colonial times or before colonial times. Farmers usually farming groups and communities are usually passed down, the profession is passed down generation to generation. So as you know, the farming profession is passed down generation to generation. Farming techniques are passed down generation by generation. So when we look back 30 years ago to 50 years ago, average Gambian peanut farmer, which is the thing that we grow the most, inherited farming from their parents, who inherited from their grandparents. At that time, that farmer may have had 2, 3, 4 wives. Those wives would give 20 children, 25 children. And all those children and those wives and those families in those communities would tend to the farms. So this gave us a strong agriculture base in those days. Today, the only thing that's changed is the farmers are having less children, and those children are being educated and leaving the farms and going into the cities. So there is a labor shortage on these farms, yet techniques are staying the same. So what's happening is we're seeing a reduce in quality, a reduction in yield. Therefore, the value of what we're growing is reducing, and we're more dependent on imports. Now, when I say a revolution in the agriculture sector, I'm talking about disrupting the way it's been done for 60 years. This means changing the mindset of what it is to be a farmer in Gambia, which means changing the techniques, adopting modern techniques, modern technology, equipment, commercializing the farms, and providing market, also growing to the right standard and quality to address the market. When I say market, we all know Ghana is a very small country.
Yes.
So the market opportunity is quite limited. To justify commercial farming, you need huge market. So an emphasis on export. And in order to tap the value or to tap the opportunities in the export market, we must go to a certain standard. And that is, in the long short, what I mean by revolutionizing agriculture in Gambia.
When did you realize that you had a niche in this business of agriculture, like you were?
So I have a background, educational background in international development and economics. And when I was in school, we used to study. One of the things that really caught my attention in my studies was the study of value chains and value addition, and the importance of creating value in an economy, creating value from what we have. And when I finished school, to come back home, I was obsessed with this idea. And the idea is quite simple. Let's stop looking outside. Let's look within. What do we have in Gambia on the most basic level? And for me, it was a no-brainer. It's peanuts. We grow peanuts.
Oh yeah.
This is what we have. So our natural value has to come from what we have, not from what we import. So if we have peanuts, what is the maximum value that we can derive from peanuts? at the moment we're not seeing that value. So when I started studying it more and getting into understanding the supply chain, I started playing inside entering the supply chain and doing, entering the business. That's when I realized where the opportunity was, and through exporting, we've been quite successful, and now taking it further into growing the right peanuts for the market to address market needs, to increase the yield, and evolution. That's when I realized that I have a niche in agriculture, because I looked at what we have in Gambia. We didn't have oil at the time.
Yes.
We didn't have gold. We didn't have anything else. We had agriculture. So you could only add value to something that you have. And that's the theory. So we entered peanuts first. The second most popular thing that we have in Gambia are mangoes.
Yes. Yes.
So mangoes were going to waste, and we built a business around stopping the wasted mango, creating a value out of that. And now we do dried sliced mango for the export market, and planning to grow that as well. So my niche is deriving value from where value is lacking, creating value. That's value addition.
Definitely. Wow. Do you see agriculture as our way out?
I feel it's a component.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, going back to my developmental background, development is, and you can look at development as a mix of different activities working together towards a common goal. And for us, it's poverty alleviation. When we think about what is development in Gambia, it's creating a middle class, right? And it's unrealistic to say that agriculture is what's going to create a middle class. It's a component. I think it's an important component, just because 60% of the workforce is engaged in the agriculture sector, right? So it's an important component. However, education is a component as well. IT is a component. These are all components that work together towards one national agenda, one goal. And when you read the government's National Development Plan, which used to be called PAGE, which is the Pay for Accelerated Growth 1 or 2, which is now being changed to a National Development Plan, all of these things are addressed. And when you look at the agriculture sector, their main focus is value addition. Right? So we see it as an important component or a way out, but it's not the only way out. There's many things that go in line with agriculture that will help Gambia develop or reach its potential.
How would you describe the future of agriculture in this country now? I mean, the reason why I asked the first question was because since I came, I've spoken to quite a lot of people, especially about agriculture. I've had two different views. Some people will kind of tend to believe that if we focus more on agriculture and those kind of things, then we will see some growth. Some people are on the other side of it, So where do you see the future of agriculture in the Gambia now, especially in what you're doing?
What's the other side?
The other side, somebody was telling me that, like everybody is jumping on this agriculture thing, thinking that, it's going to be, like our savior and those kind of things, but he just doesn't believe in it. He believes that, just like you said, there are other sectors of the economy that need to be a little bit more prioritized than agriculture, which I do not believe in. Since you said that 60% of the population is involved in agriculture. So, I mean, I don't know how that stands with you.
Okay, so I understand. Fundamentally, that person is wrong.
Okay.
Like I said, agriculture is not the savior,
right,
per se, but it is the largest driver of growth anywhere in the world.
Right.
You look at the United States.
Yes.
What is the backbone of the American middle class before the manufacturing? Before America could build cars and sell them to people, they had to have a critical mass of consumers.
Yes.
And what was that wealth created upon? We can go back and say slavery and all of these things, Okay, yes, slavery, but what would the slaves do? They were farming.
Yes.
The wealth in any nation is based on primary. You have to have your fundamentals. It's primary production, which is what you have. And what you have is either natural resource or agriculture.
Yes.
It's either oil, it's either food, it's mining. And then that allows other industries to grow. Because once you create wealth from what you are God given, naturally given, your economy can create wealth. And that wealth is used to spur manufacturing industries,
right.
IT industry, and all of these things. But without that solid base, in Gambia, if we are not able to find jobs for that 60% of the workforce that is employed in the agriculture sector, if they're forever poor, there is no IT industries, right? Because you don't have a consumer market. Right? We're already small enough as we are. Let alone 60% of the people can't afford your services. What market are you catering to? So those 60%, if you can provide valuable income for them and create a middle class out of that 60%, guess what? Now your IT company has clientele.
Yes.
Now you can start manufacturing food snacks or whatever it is because you have a market. Now the banks have a whole informal sector, what used to be an informal sector, an informal sector. Because if you have a commercialized agriculture industry, those employees will have bank accounts. Right? Unlike now where it's unofficial and they keep the money under their beds.
Yes.
So we're talking about creating, this is again my developmental background thinking and my economics background thinking. Before, when you look at your economy, you have to look at what are the fundamentals of that economy. It's very nice to say that it could be tech, it could be all these things, but the reality is that in Gambia, you can't have a successful tech industry without a critical mass of consumers. You can't have that, you can't make Gambia Silicon Valley of West Africa if the education of the masses has not reached that level. So what's the quickest way to affect the largest number of people? It's agriculture. You don't need to have a PhD to be a farmer. Right? You can increase your skills, your technical skills. But this is it. Now, on the other hand, you can argue that being such a small country, we might not have the land mass to be solely focused on agriculture, which I agree. However, if we're smart about the way we farm, we can maximize the value. We look at a country like the Netherlands.
Yes.
It's one of the smallest countries in Europe, but it's the largest producer of potatoes in Europe.
Yes.
Right? Yes. It's the largest producer of flowers.
Yes.
It's the agricultural hub of Europe.
Yes.
Why is that?
And poultry as well.
And poultry and dairy as well.
Yeah.
You know, they export all the Argentine mayonnaise that we eat here. It's from the Netherlands. So that argument is also debunked. And the basis of that economy is agriculture. The basis of the Dutch economy is agriculture. And now they're a trading hub of the EU. So the basis of American economy is agriculture.
Yes.
There's only a few countries, a few major world powers whose the basis of their economies are not really agriculture, and then you turn to oil.
Yes.
Right? Or you look at Singapore. In Singapore, you don't have the land to have agriculture. They don't have that. But what they have is a strategic location to be a port city for China,
yes,
for Asia. That's why they're successful. We don't have that advantage. We have the advantage of, in my sense, my point of view, our proximity to Europe and America.
Yes.
Our abundance in youthful energy.
Yes.
For productive,
yes,
to be channeled in the right way. If we channel this energy towards sustainable and commercial agriculture, I feel that as long as we're integrated in the international supply chain the same way Netherlands is, we can derive a lot of value. Meaning, if we're growing to the standards of the international community, right? If we're growing peanuts or mangoes or oranges or whatever it is that we can grow in Gambia, and we're processing them as well, one step further, and we're exporting and supplying major food distributors around the world, then we can start talking about lifting people out of poverty, because that's how you can create as many jobs as quickly as possible. That's how you can derive foreign direct investment as quickly as possible, because the world population is growing.
Yes.
There's more demand for food. There's less availability of land. There's less availability. Climate change is disrupting the way agriculture is being done around the world as well. So we have this situation where food is always going to be in demand.
Yes.
And what are we doing about it? We're going to talk about IT when we can't feed people. So for me, I always use agriculture as a core, and maybe it's just my developmental background. I may be wrong, but I've seen it work. And most countries that are successful usually have a basis, and it's usually a primary product. And it's either they derive value from that primary product, or they export that primary product, or it's either agriculture, it could be coal, it could be iron ore, it could be whatever it is. But there has to be a productive base before you can talk about services.
Yes.
And which is precisely what the conversation is in Gambia. It's production versus services. The economy is either agriculture, very small manufacturing, and the rest is services. We talk about IT services, banking services, tourism services. It's all services. But you can't have any of those without a productive agriculture sector, in my opinion.
Definitely. Wow. Man, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go after this, but everything that you've been saying, definitely makes sense. Now we're here at Tropingo Foods. People will probably want to know where the name Tropingo came from, and what is it that you guys do?
Yeah. So Tropingo it's a very simple name. Tropingo, it stands for tropical mangoes. So Tropingo Foods, and what we do is, in essence, we're a food inputs company. So we create food inputs, organic food inputs for the food industry. So the things that we produce go into your cereal bars, your chocolate bars, your fruit snacks. So you might not see us food snack from Tropingo Foods, but you might eat our dried mangoes in a fruit snack that you might buy from Whole Foods, for example. So that's what we are, where we supply ingredients to larger companies.
All right. Well, I'm sure a kid may be watching this, or will watch this in the future, and becomes inspired by what Momar Taal is doing. What will you tell that kid? What are some of the steps that they need to take in order to get to where you are today? Or, what is it that you can tell to any kid out there who's watching you today, wants to do what you're doing, or even has a different idea of doing something else, but don't know where to start?
You have to have faith in yourself to create your own path, which means you have to learn a lot, study a lot.
Yes.
Learn what people have done in the past. Learn where they went wrong. Look at your situation and see what you can do. So when I started this company, I looked at what Gambia has first and tried to create value from it. But I also looked at what I have. So when I started this company, I didn't have much, I didn't have anything, to be honest. And my vision would cost millions of dollars just to implement.
Yes.
So I was faced with that. Where do I start? And I literally started by selling one peanut at a time. This is what I can afford to trade, and I would trade that, and basically literally start with what I have. If you have $100, start with that $100. Say, listen, how do I make this $100? $200. And literally just start like that, and have faith that you will get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to be lucky is to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
When the opportunities come every day.
Mm-hmm.
And how you seize them is what separates someone who's successful and who's not. The same opportunities that I have exploited that got me to where I am are not opportunities that are exclusive to me. It's just that I believe that I can execute, and we were able to. So believe in yourself, learn, start with what you have, and be resilient. One thing that's guaranteed in life, apart from death, is disappointment, especially in business.
Yes.
Disappointment is normal. You're going to fail, you're going to be disappointed, and you have to be resilient. You have to respond. You have to be innovative in your response, in your solutions. I always tell people, they ask me, what's a businessman, what's an entrepreneur? And it's quite simple. And I look at my job, per se, I'm just a habitual problem solver. I wake up in the morning, I come to work, I have a goal, but just get to this goal, there's a series of problems that I have to solve every day. And it never stops. And we should solve something, another problem arises.
Yes.
And as long as you understand that every problem or obstacle is not necessarily a hindrance, it's more of an opportunity, and that's where your entrepreneurial skills will come into play. How are you going to solve those problems really will determine how successful you're going to be. So those are the few things that, from my experience, start with what you have. Think big but act small.
Definitely. One thing that some of us in the West do think about a lot is starting a business back home. I mean, that's what we all want. Everybody wants to come back home and try to do something, try to contribute in a positive way. But we all do hear these stories of starting a business and it's in somebody's hands and everything crumbles. Somebody ate my money, somebody didn't run my business the right way. I mean, what are some of the unwritten rules of doing business in this country?
Okay. So, for me, anybody who's running anything for me has to have a stake. I don't believe in setting up a business and letting someone else run it. Because if that person doesn't feel a sense of responsibility that if they lose, their money is lost, they're not going to put as much effort. So for me, I work so hard because I know that I don't have a choice. That's my money at stake. And if you want to work with me, put your money at stake. That's how I test you. Granted, people are you're going to be disappointed. You're going to lose money. It's people who owe me money till today. People who I've worked with, people who have done things and it's still outstanding. But that's business. That happens everywhere in the world. You hear it and they make a big deal about Gambia, but that's the reality of business anywhere in the world. Now, to ask you a question. Same people in the West who say, yes, I've heard all these stories that I set up a business in Gambia and they ate my money. If you set up a business in the States and you're not there and you leave it in the hands of other people, the likelihood that they'll eat your money is pretty high as well.
Yes, very.
So why do you think that they should be different in Gambia? If you want to set up a business in Gambia, treat it the same way that you would if you set up a business in the States, which means come to work and make it a job. Right? And or whoever's running it needs to be held accountable.
Right.
That's my best advice. I understand that it's easy to say, it's easier and it's a noble thing to want to do something in Gambia but live abroad. In my opinion, it would be great if there was some sort of a diaspora fund, for example, because in the West, when you want to open a business but you don't want to run it, you're an investor.
Yes.
You're not a business person.
That's right.
An investor doesn't create a startup.
No.
an investor finds a business that's on the rise,
That's right.
and they invest in them,
Invest in it.
and they trust that that business is going to go far,
Yes.
and they want a return.
Yes.
So if you're going to sit in America and you want to contribute to Gambia, maybe starting your own business in Gambia is not the right way. Maybe invest in existing businesses that are growing, like you would in America,
Right.
because you trust that that business will go far. And the way you qualify that is, guess what? If you invest in this entrepreneur, he's already put his money on the line.
That's right.
He's not going to take your money and fail because his money's already on the line.
That's right.
So that's a different conversation than sending $100,000 and having your cousin squander it. But you take $100,000 and put in a company that it has that value already invested in it,
Right.
and you take a small stake and just wait for your dividends. It's a different story. So I think we also have to reimagine our role as diasporans, or our role as Gambians abroad when we're investing in Gambia. You know, the old way of doing things doesn't work in Gambia, it doesn't work in Senegal, it doesn't work anywhere in the world. You don't start, I wouldn't sit in Gambia and say, I'm going to send $100,000 to America to my cousin to start a business there. And just hope that no, that's not how it works.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so I think that the nostalgia, we should take the nostalgia out of the thought of investing and invest the same way you would if you were in America. Invest the same way that you would anywhere else in the world. Just because it's Gambia doesn't mean that you shouldn't do your due diligence, or you shouldn't hold them to the same accountability that you would anywhere else in the world. It's a business. Take the nostalgia and the romance out of it.
Yeah, the emotions and the patriotism, you know, because like we all want to do something for Gambia, you know, and sometimes, you know, the emotions get so high that, you know, I definitely want to do this, but there's a business aspect to it, you know, and most people tend to get lost in that.
So the people who have disappointed me the most in my business are the people who I invested in emotionally.
Yes.
People close to me. So and usually I've learned to now take that side out of my business. If I'm doing something emotionally, it has to be a charity.
Yes.
But if I'm looking for a return, I can't invest emotionally. And you have to have that conversation with yourself, because it's very hard to be hard on your close family members.
Very.
So if your close family member wants to do something, right? If it's a business, treat it like a business.
That's right.
But if it's a charity, treat it like a charity. Let's say if you have a family member who wants to start a business, and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $1,000 to start your business, so I don't want anything back, then treat it like that.
That's right.
But if I'm going to invest $1,000 for you to do a business, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Yes.
Right? So you have to have that conversation. I've been through it. Nobody's immune to it. I sympathize with people in America.
Right.
I see it a lot, and it's happened to me. So, and it happened to me while I'm in Gambia.
Yeah.
So we just have to now rethink how we invest.
Right.
You know, either come here and do a business or find a way to invest in existing businesses.
Right. It all comes from experience. You know, good judgment comes from experience, and you know, those kind of things. But you talked about the idea of investors. Do you think that, I mean, I'm not trying to compare the United States to the Gambia, it's not even close. But what we have there is, you know, a company like Apple, they will throw out, you know, 100 million stocks, and people will start investing in the company, Amazon, and all of these, you know, big companies. Do you think that that is something that can happen in the Gambia sometime in the future, or is it already happening?
Yeah, so we don't have a stock exchange,
Of course, yeah.
right? So it's different.
Right.
You can buy shares in companies in Gambia. You can buy shares from the banks if they're offering them, right? Companies in Gambia right now, I think the climate is changing for investors in Gambia. Why? We're looking at treasury bills. It's the main way people used to invest in Gambia. And now treasury bill rates have fallen drastically.
Yes.
So we're looking at banks, and people used to buy treasury bills sitting on liquidity.
Yes.
You're looking at companies who are looking to raise finance. Right? Okay. If a private company decides its value, the same way that you would value an Apple shares, you look at their books, an independent company comes and values this company. and said, okay, based on this valuation, each share in this company is worth X, Y, Z. And if that company is a private company, they have the right, the ownership of that company have the right to offer shares privately in that company. And obviously you would make sure the company has the right governance structures, the right board, and make sure your money is protected. Make sure you get your lawyers involved. And you can buy shares in that company the same way that you can buy shares in Amazon. Maybe not through the stock exchange, but maybe directly to that company. I don't think we're at the stage where we have a stock exchange anytime soon. But I'm talking about direct venture capital investment or angel investing in companies. The same way that in Silicon Valley, there's venture capitalists who buy shares in startups. They don't go through a stock exchange. They value the company and they invest in the entrepreneur. I think that right now there's space to do that in Gambia. But the onus is on the investor to do the due diligence, to organize the funds, and to make sure that they're legally protected. Also, again, don't invest based on emotion.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, now, there's one thing about doing business in the Gambia. I was just talking to my dad the other day. He was a business owner for so many years. What he told me was businesses in the Gambia are usually a one-man show. That if the owner of the business dies, the business dies.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
It's absolutely right. That's the way business has been done in Gambia for a long time.
Right.
You always have to look at history. You look at who were the business people in Gambia before. After independence, it was one-man shows, maybe not very educated people, and mostly traders.
Yes.
Nobody really built institutions. But I find that a lot of the time our parents, they tell us valid points based on their experience from their time. Today, it's not the case. Today you have people building institutions, building companies, people stepping down.
Yeah.
So we look at Tuff, for example. Tuff is a developer. Now he stepped down, he's retired.
Yes.
And his company is still running.
Yes.
It's one of the biggest companies in Gambia.
Definitely.
You look at QCell, Mamaja, the same thing. These companies are going to be here way after. And that's the thing that I think is very important for our generation to do, which is something I'm doing. Make sure you have a structure that, for me, because we're a young company, I am currently the managing director of my company. Do you think that I want to be the managing director of my company forever? No. I want to step down and get somebody else to run the company. Right? This is the continuation we're talking about. You want to make sure that you've built enough capacity within your company that you can step aside and give someone else a chance, and it allows you to do other things, because that's how you create wealth. You don't want to be running your company until you die. You want to be able to step aside and let your company run itself. Sometimes you have to get out of the way of your own growth.
That's hard for business people to do.
It is, but let's get emotions over progress.
Yes.
For me, the day that I feel like I can't add anymore is the day I will step aside, because I think I have the luxury to think long term. And I also want to end up becoming an investor. So I would run my company for as long as I'm needed there. But the day that we sit down as a board and say, maybe we should bring in this person, the day I'll step down, and I won't lose anything from it. And I think once we start having that mentality, we start building our businesses based on principles rather than personalities, we'll start to see institutions that are going to be here long after we retire or we pass away. And that's something that is very important for us in Tropingo. If you look at our governance structure, so we have a board of directors, we have a board of advisory. I'm the only shareholder in the company for now, but eventually we will probably offer off some shares. And even in the voting And picking up the managing director is based on merit, right? So the day that my skills are no longer adequate for the job, as the chairman of my board, it is my responsibility to replace the managing director, right? So we have to start thinking like that, and I think it's happening now. I'm more of other companies, young companies who are also set up like this in Gambia, and I think in the next 10 years, 15 years, when a lot of these companies are mature, you start seeing a lot of institutions, but they do exist. You start seeing. I like to think of Tropingo Foods as an institution, not Momar Taal's business. Right? It's coming. We might be late to the party, but it's coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm definitely hopeful that something good will come out of that. And so we don't have too much time. Just what I wanted to ask was something that I'm very, very passionate about. It's wealth building. I think it's something that it's a conversation that we need to start having. Yeah. In our Gambian communities, managing money, personal finances, and all of these things. You guys are in business. How important is wealth management or wealth building towards the development of this country? Because people tend to shy away from money. The moment you start talking about money, or I don't want to be rich, or or on the day of judgment, most rich people are going to probably go to hell. And all of these things. People say all of those kind of things. Shying away from it. But I think it's very important for nation development. What's your take on wealth building?
So there's two sides to that coin. In Gambia, because we're very conservative and very humble, we value humility. The public sort of looks at rich people with a stigma.
Yes.
However, those same rich people probably do the most for our society, but they don't show it. When mosques are built, madrasas are built, donations to hospital, it's wealth that does this. Wealth gives you the ability to do certain things, and especially in a small country, the impact of wealth is felt more. It's wealth that creates jobs. It's wealth that creates industry. It's wealth that consumes. It's very important to create wealth in Gambia for continuity. You look at, let's take an individual who decides to go into business, for example, and they have kids, right? Naturally, you want your kids to be better off than you are.
Yes.
Right? And you're going to do that without creating wealth. Because you have to educate your children. You want them to have the best education. You want to put them in a position that they can be whatever they want to be. Right? You're not going to do that without creating wealth for your children. And you want to leave them something when you go.
Right.
And when you leave them something, that is passed down to their kids. And you hope that it's multiplied.
Yes.
Right? So in my case, for example, if I'm successful, what I plan to leave my children is the value of the shares in whatever I build. Not a guaranteed job.
Yes.
If they want to come into the company, great. They work their way up just like everyone else. But I want to leave them the value of the shares of what I've created. That's wealth, right? And you want them to do whatever they're doing to impact the next generation. Now you look at the United States, the reason why there's wealth in the United States let's look at Singapore. When they started their journey, they had a rule.
Yes.
That they don't have any natural resources. All they have is human resources. They made a rule that every citizen must own a home. It was a law, no matter who you were. And what did this do? It made sure that everyone had something to work for. Because in that making a home, there was laws that your curb must be a certain way, your garden must look a certain way. Right? And so everybody was working to develop their homes, to look nice, look a certain way, and to increase the value of that home. Eventually, it created an alternative market where people started selling their homes, or people would create a market in the real estate industry. This was the basis of their wealth, right? That was passed on to their children. And as the country grew into an economic superpower, all Singaporeans had wealth because of real estate. So wealth, that's just underpin the importance of wealth, generational wealth. And if one generation has wealth in terms of assets, and those assets are appreciating, guess what? The next generation will have even a greater foundation to build off of. So I don't see, I'm not of the view that wealth is a bad thing, or it should not be seen as a taboo. It's not, taking a religious context, it's not haram, it's not a sin. It's actually to be celebrated, as long as you use your wealth in the right way.
It changes the family tree,
of course,
because you don't want to be doing what your grandparents were doing.
Exactly.
Even if it is something that's very noble, at least you want to take it to the next level.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty cool. We don't have too much time here, so I'll just throw out some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
That are not related to the conversation. I know you're a big sports fan.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite team?
Arsenal.
Arsenal?
Yeah.
How about basketball?
Basketball, I used to be a Toronto Raptors fan.
Oh,
I lived in Toronto, but it's a very tough relationship. Yeah. You?
I'm a Liverpool fan. Yeah.
A lot of heartache.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So basketball, I'm a Kevin Durant fan. So wherever he is, this
your
way.
Personality. We're just talking about this. We don't like personalities. We like institutions.
Exactly.
We have a Kevin Durant fan.
I'm a KD fan. I've been following him since high school. So that's pretty much that. Another one is what's on your reading list right now? What books do you read?
I'm reading an interesting book called Titans. It's about everything I read is usually about business somehow.
So this is the Tim Ferriss book?
Yes, you read it?
Tim Ferriss?
Yes.
I read all his books.
Yeah, so I'm reading that right now. I just got married, and a wedding gift from my sister was a book called What I Wish They Told Me About Marriage Before I Got Married. So it's quite interesting.
I'm sure it is.
It's very interesting. So I'm reading that right now. And I'm reading a book by Rene Carrier called Psych.
Yes.
My cousin gave that to me. But apart from that, I read a lot of articles, and I try to read as many books as possible. I travel a lot, so I make it a point that I'm traveling, but from when I leave and by the time I come back, even if it's for 3 or 4 days, I have to finish a book.
Yeah.
So I use the time on the plane to read some books. So right now I have those 3 books that I'm reading. The most interesting one has to be the marriage one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite interesting.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So other than that one not being a business book, what's the most interesting business book you've ever read that sticks out?
The Tipping Point.
The Tipping Point.
Yeah, the Tipping Point is pretty good. And there's 3.
Okay.
Tipping Point, Sandy Wheel. I don't know if you know about Sandy Wheel. It's his autobiography. Sandy Wheel is the chairman of Citigroup.
Citigroup, yeah.
He founded Citigroup. It was Travelers Insurance and Citigroup, and it basically talks about how he started, and it's very interesting because it talks about what they went through to create Citigroup, and during the financial crisis as well, how it evolved. So it's quite an interesting book. I think that just because of the times, it was a very good insight. And then my favorite book of all time is Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Yeah, it's I forget the author.
Right.
But it's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm an economist by education. So for me, I recommend that everybody read that book.
What impact has reading had in your life? What are some of the changes you've seen since you got on that journey of reading books and learning?
Ideas.
Ideas.
A lot of the time, reading also helps me validate a lot of my ideas or ambitions. So apart from reading, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yes.
Right. I listen to from NPR. Mm-hmm. They have a podcast called How We Built It.
Yes.
You've heard of that. I listen to that religiously. I listen to every single one.
Cool.
Just because the journeys of these entrepreneurs who build successful businesses remind me a lot of my journey. A lot of the challenges that they face relate to what I deal with now. And there's even been some cases where I've been dealing with something and I hear someone else explain that they've been through the same thing through that podcast or through a book. And they talk about how they got through it. And I try to adapt those things to what I'm doing. And sometimes it's worked. There's something I'm actually trying to get away with now that I heard on one of those podcasts. And we'll see how it goes. But I wouldn't have those ideas if I wasn't exposed to reading these books. It's the best way to get experience from some of the most accomplished people in the world is to read their book. Because you might never have a chance to speak to them.
That's right.
Right. So for me, it's just about exposing myself to new ideas, using people's experiences to guide my decision making. And I just find it interesting. I like to read. It's tough to have the time to read nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I make sure that anytime I have the opportunity, especially when I'm traveling, because that's the biggest waste of time is when you're sitting on a plane for 8 hours.
I hate it.
So you might as well read a book. You can finish a book in 8 hours if you.
How about audiobooks? Are you into audiobooks?
No, not really.
Okay.
I rather listen to a podcast than listen to an audiobook, because with audiobooks I feel like it doesn't really grasp my attention as much as when I read.
Right.
A book, right. And with a podcast, it's different because it's more of a conversation.
Yes.
Right? So for me, audiobooks don't really. I don't know. I never really connected with me the same way as reading an actual book does.
I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks every day. So
yeah,
definitely.
Maybe I can train myself to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It would be a lot more convenient. Like,
oh yeah.
When I'm driving, I can listen to. And when I'm driving, every time I'm driving, I listen to a podcast.
Okay.
So even on the way here, you check on my phone, you see I was listening to How We Built It.
Oh, cool. Well, I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but with time limitations, and you're a busy guy, you have a lot of stuff to do.
Yes.
We'll just go ahead and cut it short here. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll just cut it short here. Just really want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come to your place and talk to you.
Yeah.
And just want to tell you thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you very much.
No problem. Anytime.
All right.